Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Devotions. I'm Pastor Tim Mason, the Associate Pastor here at Incarnation Lutheran Church. And a reminder for everybody, anybody can participate with our online activities by simply going to our website, godamong.us, and you will look and you see online activities. Click on there and you'll see a whole list of all the cool things that you can join us with online. And please share that information with some friends or family, because there's a lot of people who could sure use some words of hope at this time. For tonight, I'm going to begin my devotion, a reading from 1 John chapter 3, verse 1. See what great love the Father has lavished on us, that we should be called children of God, and that is what we are. Now, when someone asks my name, I often say, my name is Pastor Tim Mason, and I am the Associate Pastor at Incarnation Lutheran Church. And this is fine and good because I am a pastor, and as a pastor, I serve a faith community called Incarnation Lutheran Church. And this is a pretty good description of what I do, and I take this title very seriously because there's over 30 years of ministry experience behind this title, Associate Pastor at Incarnation Lutheran Church. There's an undergraduate degree in biology that took a little bit more than 4 years, then a 4 years master's degree that gets applied as well, and then there's 2 and 2/3 years or so working with Lutheran Youth Encounter, traveling in South Central United States and in the Northwestern United States, eventually going to Papua New Guinea and New Zealand, doing music ministry in all those places. Plus, there's at least 3 years of Bible camp and helping with Bible camps for many years. Behind that title also, 14 years serving the Division for Global Missions with the ELCA, serving as a missionary in Japan. And that includes a 2-year language study while I'm serving 2 churches. And I essentially worked right alongside the Japanese pastors. Everything was done in Japanese. And then for 15 years, until just 2.5 years or so ago, I served at Calvary by the Sea Lutheran Church on the island of Oahu, in an extremely diverse and wonderful place. So I have a whole lot of people and experiences behind that title. But for most of the people in my life now, I'm the associate pastor, and which is exactly what I want to do. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. But not a whole lot of people know about the road that it took to get here. I'll share it anytime I can, but it's just wonderful that all of those experiences have brought me to this wonderful place to serve this amazing congregation right here and right now. The problem is oftentimes when we meet somebody for the first time, all we think about the person is what we see. And sometimes there's just no time, but we don't really give much thought of the journey that this person has gone through to bring that person in front of you at that moment in time. And it's difficult to really get to know someone, especially during this COVID time. But really, we have phones, and yeah, we can use Zoom and FaceTime. We can still maintain relationships, but it seems like society seems to demand that we need to be able to evaluate somebody immediately. You kind of hear that in news and for interviews and things like that. So we meet somebody, we look at the way they're dressed, and we immediately apply a label right to that person just by looking at them, without speaking to them or anything. And then we'll look at the way they dress, maybe the way they talk. Oh, by the way, when I speak Japanese, my accent is Tokyo. Even though some people say I have a Minnesota accent, but I don't think that's true, yo. Anyways, but we'll look at somebody, see the way they're dressed or the way they speak. We'll put a label on them. This person might be a business person, a blue-collar worker, a casual and relaxed person, a hippie, hipster, a liberal or a conservative, low church person, a high church person, a person who is approachable and easy to talk to, or maybe a person we may immediately think is cold, aloof, maybe even prickly. I've heard it all, and I've been called most of them. Getting to know someone really does take effort, and sometimes it takes it's a game of give and take. You need to listen to somebody, and you need to speak to somebody. You need to share. But one thing that's interesting is as you do this drama of listening and speaking, this give and take, soon when you start hearing about somebody's background, the things they've done, the people they've seen, the places they've gone, and soon you realize that you've become part of that story. And what's even better is that person has now become part of you. And I think this is one of the most exciting things about getting to know people. It's important to know really the journey that somebody's been on that brings them right here to this second. You can see a lot of the journey around in back of me here. But every day it also just kind of seems that our culture and our society, it demands that we must adapt or adjust to the never-ending changing expectations of the way in which we're supposed to live, speak, dress, all that kind of stuff. And if we don't do the things society or other people expect of us, we could be left behind or forgotten. When I drive around, I see so many people who have been left behind by society, and I think each one of those individuals has a story to tell. They have values that they hold dear. But something went wrong along the way. What happened? Just in driving to church today, I saw one young man standing in front for everyone to see him as he was holding a sign, "Will work for food." Everyone who looked at him gave him a label, including me. And it wasn't an uplifting label, I'm afraid. Who is this young man? He certainly isn't the label all the people comfortably sitting in their cars gave him. He's so much more than that label I'm sure everybody threw at him. He has a story, most likely a very sad story. Who are his friends? Where is his family? What does he think of himself? Has anyone stopped to talk with him? And the hundreds of people just like him that we see hanging around Interfaith in Escondido, or I'm sure Taco down in San Diego. I think like this, I think like this all the time. And when I donate clothing or food or something to a food pantry or Goodwill or wherever, I try to imagine the person who will choose the object or canned food that I donated, and I wonder what they look like, who they are, things like that. In Hawaii, we had at the church that I served a very active food bank, and I saw those people who came to get food every day, or no, it was twice a week, face to face. In the beginning of my time there, and this is way back in 2004, most of the people that came there were homeless or so, and maybe up to maybe 300 a month or so. But over the years, demographics changed. The economic pressures changed, and soon there were young mothers and children, and then there were a lot of young men that suddenly lost their jobs. And then there were the seniors that started to show up, seniors who lived in the neighborhood. And I felt especially bad for them because many of them, they had a house to live in, thank goodness, but they had a fixed income and costs for food, transportation, medical issues, medicine, That was the big one. And then even their property taxes would go up, but not their fixed income. So something had to go. And sometimes it was the medication, sometimes it was the food. They needed to eat. And so we provided food. And when they came on campus, I could just feel some of them feeling like everybody's looking at them with pitiful labels. But when they came onto our campus, they were children of God. There was this very special person in my life, and his name was Rodney Macalino. When he first came to our food bank, and this was way before I arrived, he was a drug addict, was in and out of jail constantly. He was a tough guy. He was really strong. I wouldn't want to be on his bad side at all, but he still always came to our food bank, which is called Angel Networks Charities. And he would always come to Calvary by the Sea, and he was welcome. And then one day, one of the aunties of our congregation had the courage to take Mac under her wing. She helped him get free of drugs, and most importantly, she helped him see himself as a child of God, and not just as the con or ex-con or the druggie that everybody kept calling him and society demanded to call him. When he was on our campus, he was Mac, child of God. And we started to give him odd jobs and things around the campus and the food bank. And soon he earned his way up, and he became our food bank director. And when Mac and I would drive up to the North Shore, and the North Shore of Oahu's, there's a lot of poverty up there. Some of it's really rough area up there. But Mac would hang out the window of my car, and everybody knew Mac on the way up, and they'd be going, "Hey, Uncle Mac," and then he'd do, "Hey, Mac, how's it?" And everybody knew Mac, and I totally understand why. So Mac's final title was Angel Network Charities Food Bank Manager, and that title was earned through an immense amount of bad choices, bad influences, a dark journey of addiction, but then recovery. No longer being called a con or an ex-con or a druggie. But in the end, through tough love, courage, and a lot of grace, Mac became Rodney Macalino, child of God, and the director of the largest private food bank on the island of Oahu. And to my delight, a fellow servant of God with me, Pastor Tim. And Mac passed away. He passed away from cancer just before I left Hawaii. But Mac and his story now is a part of me. And I carry Mac and his title and his story with me all the time. In closing, I'd like to read from Ephesians chapter 4, verse 1 through 6. Paul says, "As a prisoner for the Lord, then, I urge you to live a life worthy of the calling you have received. Be completely humble and gentle. Be patient, bearing with one another in love. Make every effort to keep the unity of the Spirit through the bond of peace. There is one body, one Spirit, just as you were called to one hope when you were called, one Lord, one faith, one baptism, one God and Father of all, who is over all and through all and in all." Let us pray. Lord, I choose to be attentive to your voice. May we be alert to your Spirit's guidance as we journey onwards with you. Amen. Well, thank you for spending some time with me, and I hope you have a great evening. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.